Your throat is closing. Not allergies, something worse. You have a fever of 103F, your joints feel packed with gravel, and you haven't kept food down in 2 days. Right now, there is a pharmacy 4 minutes away, a doctor reachable by text, a refrigerator stocked with electrolyte drinks and pain relief that would have seemed miraculous to anyone alive before the 20th century. Now take all of that away. No antibiotics, no germ theory, no hospital, no one who can name what is killing you, only people who love you and are trying to stop it. So what did ancient humans actually do when their bodies turned against them? And did any of it work? The answer is stranger, more sophisticated, and in some cases more effective than most people expect. The story doesn't belong to helpless primitives guessing in the dark. It belongs to something older and more precise than that. In 1991, hikers in the Alps on the border between Austria and Italy stumbled across the frozen remains of a man who had died approximately 5,300 years ago. Researchers named him Ötzi. What made him extraordinary, beyond his age, was what he was carrying. Strapped to his body were 2 different species of bracket fungus, Fomes fomentarius and Piptoporus botulinus. The first is a fire starter. The second is a pharmaceutical. Piptoporus botulinus contains agaric acid, a powerful laxative and antiparasitic compound. Analysis of D's intestines confirmed he was infected with the whipworm parasite Trichuris trichiura. He was carrying his own medicine for his own illness, packed alongside his tools and weapons. This was not accidental. It was prescription. 5 millennia before the word pharmacy existed, a man dying in the Alps had already made the connection between a specific plant compound and a specific internal threat, and brought it with him. The evidence is sitting in the South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology in Bolzano, Italy, and it has not stopped being astonishing since the day it was found. Here's where it gets strange. Everyone assumes ancient healing was pure superstition, ritual over remedy, prayer over pharmacology. The truth is that the archaeological and anthropological record consistently reveals something closer to applied botany. And here's the evidence. Researchers studying traditional plant medicine across cultures have cataloged over 50,000 plant species used medicinally worldwide, with a striking number of them containing active compounds that modern biochemistry has since confirmed as legitimate. In 1987, ethnobotanist Paul Allen Cox, working across Samoan traditional medicine, identified a treatment derived from the mamala tree, Homolanthus nutans, used by local healers for a condition resembling hepatitis. The active compound, prostratin, was later found in laboratory testing to inhibit HIV replication. Cox didn't invent the medicine. He found it where it had been sitting for generations, embedded in a knowledge system most of the modern world had already dismissed as folklore. The healers weren't guessing. They were applying a pharmacopoeia developed through centuries of observation, cross-generational transmission, and something that functioned in practice like clinical trial and error at a community scale. So what about injury? The broken bones, the infected wounds, the deep cuts that would kill a person today without intervention. In 2020, a team led by archaeologist Tim Maloney at Griffith University in Australia announced a discovery at Liang Tibo Cave on the island of Borneo, a skeleton showing evidence of successful below-the-knee amputation performed approximately 31,000 years ago. The patient had survived the surgery. The bone had healed over cleanly. The individual had lived for years afterward. This pushed the earliest known complex surgery back by 24,000 years, shattering the prior record held by a Neolithic French site. The wound showed no signs of fatal infection. That means whoever performed the operation had working knowledge of wound management, cleaning, possibly cauterization or botanical antiseptics, and sustained post-operative care across weeks. The individual who survived this was not lucky. Luck does not produce clean bone remodeling over a major amputation site. Someone with skill and knowledge kept that person alive deliberately for long enough to let the body do its part. But there's a problem with the picture that's been forming here. Not everything ancient healers did worked. Some of it actively caused harm. Trepanation, drilling holes in the living skull, was practiced on every populated continent, and while some patients survived, the procedure was applied to conditions as varied as epilepsy, migraines, and what may have been mental illness. Survival rates varied enormously. In some archaeological samples from pre-Columbian South America, over 90% of trepanned skulls show healed margins, suggesting genuine surgical skill. In other populations, the rates were far lower. Everyone assumes ancient people either had no medicine or had medicine that was purely symbolic. The truth is, a third option, they had real medicine and real failure, in the same proportion that makes medicine recognizable, which is that it works often enough for enough people that the knowledge survives and gets passed down even when it doesn't work every time. That's not superstition. That's the beginning of a system. What made it function wasn't any single plant or technique. What made it function was memory. In a 2019 paper published in the journal PNAS, anthropologist Sheena Liu Levy and colleagues documented healing knowledge among Hadza and Bayaka forager communities in Tanzania and the Republic of Congo, groups whose lifestyles most closely approximate pre-agricultural human life. What they found was that medicinal knowledge was distributed differently than other knowledge. It spread more horizontally across the group than vertically from elder to child. In communities where an individual healer might die young from the same diseases they were treating, the group couldn't afford to keep medical knowledge siloed in a single expert. Instead, practical healing knowledge was spread wide, held collectively, redundant by design. The community was the immune system as much as the body was. A child with a fever wasn't treated by one person. They were treated by an ecosystem of people who had each absorbed fragments of the same inherited wisdom, cross-checking each other in real time. That is the answer the archaeological record keeps circling back to, across 30,000 years and 6 continents. Ancient humans got sick the same way you do. The same viruses, the same bacterial infections, the same parasites, the same broken bones from the same kinds of falls. What they didn't have was centralized medicine. What they had instead was distributed knowledge, botanical precision refined across thousands of generations of careful observation, and communities small enough that no sick person ever faced their illness alone. Right now, you're alive in a world where a stranger in a lab coat can name what is destroying your cells from a blood sample smaller than a teaspoon. That is extraordinary. It is also recent. It is the inheritance of every healer who ever wrapped a wound in clean leaves, every grandmother who knew which bark to boil, every community that refused to let the knowledge die with one person.